Yes, eating is actually the most difficult sensory task we do. We have 8 different senses, and your child can be an overresponder or underresponder in any of these senses, and eating requires use of all 8 of these senses. So today I'm going to review a few of them and some signs your child might be an over or underresponder. The first one is visual. So visual overresponders tend to dislike bright lights, maybe they don't always make eye contact, and they're going to be really specific on how their food looks. For example, if you offer them a different color of applesauce, they're going to refuse it. If the brand changes the way the packaging looks, they're going to refuse it because they want things to look the same all the time. They often prefer beige carbohydrates. If your child is oversensitive to touch, they don't like getting dirty, maybe they prefer using utensils or wipe their hands off all the time, or if they're younger, they'll like finger spray after they touch something wet that they don't like. And they often prefer a specific texture, again, usually dry and crunchy will be easiest for them to eat. If your child's over responsive to sound, they might not like those, loud, crunchy foods because it's too loud when they chew them. They'll have difficulties eating in loud settings, like a food court or at school, and maybe you'll see them, covering their ears, or they tend to hear things that you just don't hear. If your child's oversensitive to smell, they may gag when they smell something they don't like, cover their nose. That one's a little bit easier to determine. If your child is oversensitive to taste, they may gag, and even to the point of vomiting when they taste something that's really strong that they don't like. Often they'll spit out food, and it's easier for them to eat uniform processed food. So there's also proprioception, vestibular, and interoception, which I'm not going to get into here. But in terms of underresponders, so an underresponder tends to be maybe a little less aware, maybe withdrawn and quiet. Often they can't feel the food in their mouth, so it might fall out of their mouth as they eat, or they may drool a lot, or they might pocket the food or store it in the side of their cheeks just to kind of feel it. They also prefer often like carbonated beverages or really spicy foods that have a lot of flavor and texture. And they might also like suck, lick, chew objects almost compulsively. So those are some signs of overresponsive kids and underresponsive kids. I'm trained in sequential oral sensory feeding therapy, or SOS, which moves kids up a 32-step hierarchy to eating, from being able to tolerate the food to being able to touch the food. So if you think this is a concern, get in touch with me, or maybe have an assessment by an occupational therapist, for example, or someone trained in SOS. But something that we all can do at home, and it's really easy and will be beneficial to all kids, is messy play. So this is away from the table. It doesn't have to include food. It can include all different textures, from dry, like playing with sand or dry rice, all the way up to wet, like playing with maybe cooked pasta or shaving cream or bubbles, and exposing your child and playing with these foods, making it fun to different textures and different feels will actually help them try new textures and eat them when it comes to sitting at the table.